Hi, everybody. Hans Vodder here at New Life Church once again to share with you a devotional thought based on Juanita Ryan's book, An Enduring Embrace, Experiencing the Love at the Heart of Prayer. The theme for this week's devotional is Christ dwelling in our hearts as prayer, and it takes its cue from one of my personal favorite scripture passages, Ephesians 3:16 through 19. And it reads as follows. I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through the Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the saints, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge. And again, that's Ephesians 3:16 through 19. Some of us may have had the experience as children of responding to an invitation in Sunday school or church to pray to let Jesus come into your heart. In fact, we may have responded to many such invitations, sometimes out of uncertainty about whether or not earlier responses had counted, and sometimes out of a genuine longing for something more in our relationship with God. But according to this text from Ephesians, the Spirit has to make us ready to receive the indwelling of love, the indwelling of Christ. And this being made ready to know this love that surpasses knowledge is an ongoing process. The author of this text from Ephesians prays for those who are followers of Christ to be strengthened with power through the Spirit in their inner being, so that Christ may dwell in their hearts. What is being described here is an ongoing process of being strengthened and transformed. The text refers to the process of being empowered by the Spirit in our inner being, and to the process of being rooted and established in love. These transformational processes can make us people capable of experiencing the love of Christ, which is so wide and long and high and deep that it is beyond our grasp. These processes are part of the ongoing richness of encounters with the love and grace of God. The more we encounter grace, the more we are rooted in love. The more we are strengthened in our inner being by a growing trust in the love of Christ, the more our hearts and spirits are made tender and open to the deep and abiding presence of Christ with us and in us. Our spirits are joined by the Spirit of God, and we are filled full of God, filled full of love. This is the meaning of Christ dwelling in our hearts. It is radical, humbling, glorious. Prayer is asking that God would do this work in us, that God would make us ready to receive the love of Christ, that God would establish us in love, that God would allow us to grow in our experience of the love of Christ, which surpasses knowledge, that our hearts and spirits would be opened and enlarged to know more and more deeply the presence of Christ with us and in us. Ms. Bryan then continues with a prayer based on this devotional reading. Strengthen me in my inner being. Establish me in love. Allow me to know your love truly, intimately, your love that is beyond measure, beyond knowing, that my heart might be made tender by your love, that my spirit would be opened and enlarged to know your presence in me. Live in me today. The devotion that she has written mentions praying on multiple occasions for Jesus to come into our hearts, sometimes based not just out of a desire to know God better, but sometimes based on a certain anxiety that the first time the prayer wasn't really effective. Some of us have perhaps been baptized on more than one occasion for similar reasons. I know that if you count liturgical sprinkling as an infant, I've been baptized 3 times. So I'm hoping that at least one of those took. But in all seriousness, there is a legitimate desire to know God more deeply And sometimes our anxiety about whether or not we've prayed quite the right prayer or not, or done the right action to make us an effective vessel of God's love, it can inhibit spiritual growth. Anxiety and worry is something that I deal with on a fairly regular basis, and it can get in the way of receiving God's love. So I guess I'd like to conclude this thought by adapting the text of Ephesians 3:16 through 19 into a prayer for all of us, if we name the name of Christ, and among these I include myself. So Ephesians 3:16 through 19 adapted would read as follows. Dear Lord, I pray that out of your glorious riches you would strengthen us with power through your Spirit in our inner being, so that Christ may dwell in our hearts through faith. And I further pray that we would be rooted and established in love, and that you would grant us power, together with all the saints, to grasp how wide and how long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge. So that's my prayer for you this week, and if you think of it, pray it for me as well, and hopefully we'll see you next time with a further devotional thought here at the New Life Church website or on YouTube or wherever you happen to be watching it. So thanks, and God bless.